Please see the link in the description to download a worksheet for this video. If you've not already done so, we suggest that you watch the video on how to calculate the area of squares and rectangles. Before watching this video, there are triangles all around us. They're very popular in construction because they're so strong. We also use triangles a lot in science, engineering, and computer graphics. In this video, we'll learn what the word congruent means, about congruent triangles in squares and rectangles, how to count the area of a triangle, and the formula for calculating the area of any triangle. Let's begin by learning what the word congruent means. The word congruent means that two things are the same size and shape, so that one can perfectly cover the other. For example, this green square is congruent with this blue square because they're the same size and shape. In contrast, this green square is not congruent with this purple square because they're different sizes, even though they're the same shape. Likewise, this green square is not congruent with this gold disc because they're different shapes, even though they're both about the same size. Here's a quiz. Are these congruent? They appear to be the same size, but at first it looks like their shapes are different. We're allowed to rotate and flip over shapes when we're checking for congruency. Instead of using the expression flipping over, in math we use the word reflect. After rotating and reflecting the green triangle, we found that it is congruent with the purple triangle. Please note that when two shapes are congruent to each other, then they have the same area. Next, we'll learn about congruent triangles in squares and rectangles. Here's a square. If we cut it in half along this diagonal line, then we can turn it into two triangles. These triangles are congruent with each other. We know that because each triangle is the same size and shape as each other. So the green triangle fits perfectly over the blue triangle. Likewise, if we cut it in half along this diagonal line, we also get two congruent triangles. That means each of these two triangles have exactly the same area as each other. Here's a quick quiz. How much area does the green triangle have compared to the blue square that it came from? The green triangle has half as much area as the blue square. That's because to make the green triangle, we cut the blue square in half. When we cut it in half, we got two equal-sized triangles. Each triangle has half the area of the square that it came from. We can also cut a rectangle into two congruent triangles by cutting along either of its diagonal lines. That means each of these two triangles have exactly the same area as each other. It also means that each triangle will have half the area of the rectangle that it came from. Let's summarize this important fact. The area of a triangle is half the area of the square or rectangle that it comes from. When we say that a triangle comes from a square or rectangle, we mean that we can draw a rectangle or square around any triangle so that all of the triangle's corners are touching the rectangle. This fact applies to all triangles. For example, here's a yellow rectangle, and there's a blue triangle inside it. The other area we colored green. It may seem that this blue triangle is taking up more than half the area inside the yellow rectangle, but it's taking up exactly half the area. If we move the green pieces to the right, rotate, and then join them, we can see that the new green triangle is congruent with the blue one. This again tells us that a triangle's area is equal to half the area of the square or rectangle that it comes from. Next, we'll discuss how to count up the area of a triangle. Let's say that we have this sheet of plywood and we want to know its area. We could cover it with tiles that are each 1 square foot. That means each tile is 1 foot wide and 1 foot high. Then, we count up the number of tiles and find there are 16 tiles. So the area of this plywood is 16 square feet. If we cut this piece of 16 square feet plywood along this yellow diagonal line, then we'll make two congruent triangles. What's the area of each triangle? We count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 whole tiles. And there are 4 half tile pieces that we can combine to make 2 more whole tiles. That gives us a total of 8 full tiles. So the area of this plywood triangle is 8 square feet. That's half of the area of the original piece of plywood. Next, we'll learn the formula for calculating the area of a triangle. Although we could count up tiny squares inside a triangle to find its area, this would take a long time. So we use a formula instead. Here's the formula for the area of a triangle. The area of a triangle equals the length of its base times its height divided by 2. This formula works on any triangle, regardless of its shape or size. The base is the horizontal line. The height is the vertical distance from the base to the highest vertex. We can use this formula on any triangle. We just have to know what its base and height are. Here's a quiz. What's the base and height of this triangle? The base is the horizontal line that's part of the triangle. In this case, it's 5 centimeters. The height is the vertical distance from the horizontal line to the top vertex. The word vertex refers to one of the corners on a triangle. In this case, the height is 3 centimeters. Please note that in some cases, such as this triangle, the height might not be one of the sides of the triangle. Let's use this formula on this triangular piece of plywood. We know that its base is 4 feet and its height is also 4 feet. To calculate the area of a triangle, we do 3 steps. Step 1. Write out the formula. Area equals the base times the height divided by 2. Step 2. Substitute the words with numbers. In this case, the base is 4 and the height is 4. Step 3. Calculate. We'll do this in 2 parts. The first part is to multiply. 4 times 4 equals 16. The second part is to divide. 16 divided by 2 equals 8. So the area of this plywood triangle is 8 square feet. This is the same number we got when we counted up the square foot tiles. In the prior video, we learned about the formula to calculate the area of squares and rectangles. Here's the formula for the area of a square or rectangle. It's the base times the height. Here are 3 of the most famous formulas for area. The formula for the area of a triangle may look very similar to the formula for the area of a square and to the formula for the area of a rectangle. That's because all of these formulas calculate the area of a square or rectangle. The only difference is that for a triangle, we then divide that area by 2, which is the same as dividing that area in half. That's because the area of a triangle is half the area of the square or rectangle that it comes from. These are other formats for the area of a triangle formula. Sometimes you'll see the formula for the area of a triangle written like this. The letter B stands for base. The letter H stands for height. And there's a small 1/2 fraction to the left of the B. When we put a fraction or any other number next to a letter, that means they're being multiplied. So we read this as the area of a triangle equals 1/2 times the base times the height. It's just another way to express the same formula, which we prefer to write like this. The area of a triangle equals the base times the height divided by 2. Thanks for your attention.